You know, folks, it's not every day that you meet a school superintendent whose influences range from St. Francis of Assisi to Malcolm Gladwell and Michael Fullen and George Costanza of Seinfeld. But in 1 minute, you're going to meet such an educator as we talk about education reform and the business of education with Dr. David Fine, who is the school superintendent of the Peekskill Central School District. I'm Bruce Apar, and you're watching Hudson Valley WXYZ with Bruce the Blog. Hudson Valley WXYZ with Bruce the Blog is brought to you by Chase Media Group, which is publisher of The Penny Saver and also home of Chase Press. And I thank Carla Chase, the CEO of the company, as well as Frank J. Rich, the Chief Strategic Officer, for producing the show and bringing it to you. And by the way, you can also see the show not only on cable TV, but also on YouTube by searching for Hudson Valley WXYZ or searching for Bruce the Blog, and you'll see all the past shows come up with all our guests. What we do is we bring you people making unique contributions to our quality of life, and we also like to explore ideas and issues and topics that are of interest to all of us who live here and that affect all of us as well. And that certainly goes for my guest, Dr. David Fine. David, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Bruce.
Who is the brand new superintendent, right, of the Peekskill Central School District. You just took over in, right, July 1 of
July
2015
1st.
of this year.
July 1st this year, yeah.
And where were you before, David? Like, what was your immediate background?
I was the assistant superintendent in Peekskill last school year.
Right.
Prior to that, the last 7 years, I was the middle school principal. Prior to that, I was in Putnam Valley as the assistant principal in Putnam Valley. Prior to that, I was a dean of students, and then for about 10 years, I was at East Ramapo School District as a special ed and social studies teacher at Spring Valley High School.
And what is it about education that interested you to begin with? In other words, like, how old were you? Do you remember how old you were when you said, I want to be a teacher?
Well, my undergraduate degree was in business management. I went to Franklin Pierce College in New Hampshire.
Sure.
So I had a business management degree. My family business was plumbing and heating, and I thought I was going to do plumbing and heating for the rest of my life,
right.
And or some sort of management in the plumbing and heating world. And I graduated from Franklin Pierce, and for about 6 months I kind of poked around and did some management jobs and some sales jobs and worked in the family business here and there. And realized that I didn't really love the sales aspect of it all.
Right.
You know, I would be with someone selling the stickers on a folder at a dentist's office, and I would go into the dentist's office, and the guy I was with would, do his or her thing. For me, I was like, well, they don't like the stickers. Thank you. It was nice to meet you. Goodbye.
Right.
So I wasn't that good. I also was always involved in sports. Always very good with kids and working with kids, whether it was family or friends, and always enjoyed the adolescent experience, just working with them.
Right.
So I realized that really the sales piece wasn't my thing, and I thought about school, I thought about education, and I started to go, I took a class at Long Island University. And it was probably the first time that I really felt like things made sense in a classroom for me.
Right.
The world of education, the systems of education, working with children,
right.
and more importantly, our product as educators is what we bring to the table. It's not a sticker or on a folder, or it's not a vacuum, or it's not like a medical supply apparatus. It's our content and our instructional approach.
Right.
And that's what we're bringing to the table, and I really connected to that, and more importantly, the adolescent needs of the kids that trying to make their experience better than maybe mine was when I was in school.
Oh, that's it. Well,
So-
that's interesting.
Yeah.
That's sort of analogous to how, parents will say, "I want my children to have what I couldn't have," or
Yeah.
things like that.
Yeah, I feel the same way.
Yeah.
Yep.
And you have established a theme for the year, which is a system focused on every student every day. And I also saw, in looking at the website and some of your writings and thoughts, that you are very focused on a student-centered environment.
Sure.
I mean, now, somebody might say, like me, just being an observer and a parent, well, isn't every school student-centered? Isn't that the way it's supposed to be? But apparently it's not that easy, right?
We have, and I'm proud and honored to have the opportunity to be the superintendent of Peekskill City Schools. And we have an amazing staff, an amazing faculty, a great administrative team that are working hard to create that student-centered classroom. And what I mean by that is, in the past, when you think of a classroom, it's, a teacher in the front, you got the blackboard, right, and you got kids just sitting there writing or listening. If you do sort of that PET scan, like that, the brain activity,
Right,
there'd be a lot of blue in those kids' brains. Whereas if there's engaged youngsters and kids that are the focus of the activities, that neurological sort of work in their brains would be red, and they'd be activated. And
right. So, and blue, by blue you mean the sort of drifting?
yeah, they'd be a little more
yeah,
passive.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So the teacher, his or her job is to understand the content to
Right.
an excellent manner, whatever the content may be, but also be able to articulate that to children, whether it's pre-K or 12,
Right.
in a motivating, logical, engaging manner with respect to what they're trying to bring to the table.
Right. Now, that's an interesting aspect. Hiring teachers, do you get directly involved at all? I mean, that's usually a building principal function, right? But I would assume, at the least in your role, as well as the other people in your office, in the central district office, that you set up hiring parameters, right?
We have a hiring process.
Yeah.
Depending on the position, we have a very supportive and strong board of education as well. Depending on the position, I would be involved in it.
Right.
Teachers would normally get vetted at the building level, and then once they get to their first or second or third choice, it would get vetted through myself and probably part of my cabinet, and then ultimately the Board of Education makes that final recommendation.
And so you're saying you have approval,
Yes,
over the final decision.
for sure.
Yeah. And one of the things, I mean, not to get too deeply into this, but there's a lot of other things we want to talk about in the 30 minutes we have right now. But I noticed that with your coming into this position, there's been a streamlining of the Central District Office in terms of sort of a reorganization of positions.
Yeah, the last couple of years there was a reorganization of the central office. We have approximately 3,500 students in our school district.
Right.
We have
How many schools? How many buildings?
6.
6. Okay.
6. We just opened up an alternative high school. It's part of Peekskill High School. It's called the Summit Academy.
Oh, okay.
That's housed in Uriah Hill as well. It's been an amazing program for a lot of those youngsters, creating an environment that is truly aligned to their learning styles, their environmental accommodations, their social emotional needs. So we have a
Right.
number of high school youngsters over there at Uriah Hill. But relative to the central office, there's been a lot of challenges, and there's a lot of work that we are focused on with regard to our school district. So
Right.
the last couple of years, we felt to provide more support at the elementary level, pre-K through 5, with an assistant superintendent focused on pre-K through 5, and then 6 through 12, also an assistant superintendent. And basically what we did is we just reallocated positions, didn't necessarily add anybody, and pretty much gave direction or deliverables to folks to focus pre-K through 5, which is Mary Foster, and 6 through 12.
Which is not the same person as the past mayor.
Not the
That's the
past
same
mayor.
name. I just want to make sure.
She actually was someone who was a principal in the school district as well for probably a good 20 plus years.
Right.
So it's nice to have that capacity within so they can move into that role. They know the ins and the outs. They know the lay of the land. So we have two folks, focused one on elementary, one on secondary, and then myself.
Right.
And also, of course, our business assistant superintendent, and then someone who's in charge of human resources, Dr. Mosey. And our business person, Robin Zimmerman, who's fantastic as well.
And I know you talk about, again, in what I read, I know you like to basically advocate a lot of different practices, that you've already implemented or in process of implementing, and you have very strong ideas, very specific ideas about education and how it should be managed. And you talk about the social, academic, and emotional needs of the children.
Yeah.
Now, I know this is something that comes up, on a fairly regular basis. Let's take the emotional needs. The academic needs, obviously, is what the school is there for. And then you have, the social needs, which are extremely important. On the emotional needs, where does the responsibility of the parent end and the school begin? A lot of people will say that the schools should be, depending on their position, more involved or less involved in things like that, in the emotional needs.
Well, I mean, I think it's a partnership, and there's no real boundary between the two. I've always felt a very strong connection, even when I was a teacher, with the parents. Like, they want the best that we want. They want their child to feel good, be successful, learn what resilience is, and learn the X's and O's or the ABCs of school. Like, they want the best. So if you work closely with them, hold each other accountable for our roles and responsibilities, it's a nice relationship. And that's not always done. Sometimes some folks hands off, do what you got to do, school, and some folks at the school level say, you got to take care of this. For me, I mean, I feel as though, that partnership, there's no boundaries, it's enmeshed, and it's important for schools to create vehicles where parents feel welcome, they feel comfortable going into the school. There's callbacks, there's follow-up. Last Saturday we did this 5K race, which was great. I'm still a little sore. It's been like a few days. But we had a lot of great parents. Our PTO's been fantastic. Our PTO's the Parent-Teacher Organization. Our Peekskill Education Foundation. So Peekskill is chock full of folks that are in and really want the best for not just their child, but the children as well. So as a school, we're creating those opportunities and vehicles for everyone to get together.
And on that superintendent's fun run in 5K, that's something that has been done in the past?
No, this was the first year.
You started that?
Yeah, this was the first year.
So are you a runner?
No, I'm not. I want to be. I really do. I want to run. I woke up the next day, I couldn't move, and I said, let's just do it again. And I was like, no, I can't do it again.
By the way, David, it's election season, so when you say you want to run, you have to be specific about what you mean.
No, I just want to hit. I want to hit the pavement.
And so that was and it was a fundraiser, wasn't it? It was for which charity?
For our PTOs, which will then get disseminated into our building. So all the monies will go towards paying for any expenses we had. Like we had these bibs with magnetic strips, beautiful start and finish line. All of the postings are online, so you can see like how everyone did. Which is, some people love and some people are like, can you take my name down? One of our science teachers did it in 16 minutes, which I couldn't even believe. 16 minutes.
Wow. You must have scientifically figured out how to do that.
But it was the first year we did it, and honestly, it would not have come off as well as it did without the volunteers and the teachers and administrators and clerical, custodial team. They came at like 5:45 in the morning on Saturday and helped set up donations, sponsorships. So it was an all-in sort of community event that was really what it's all about.
And speaking of that, that seems to be something that you're very intent on accomplishing, which is engaging directly with the community. You've had this coffee gathering.
Tomorrow, yes.
Yeah, well, it will have been in the past.
Oh, okay.
It's like Back to the Future. It's a little bit of a time warp. But again, that's something that you've started to do.
No, the superintendent's coffee has historically been something part of the role. So I like to kind of modify it a little bit and maybe do like a hike or a walk, or we can shoot foul shots and we can talk,
Right.
kind of something like that.
But you just want to get closer to the community, right? And let
Yeah.
them know that you're there for them to ask questions of or talk to, or, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of a disease within when misperceptions are out there or mistruths, and that knowledge is power sort of thing.
Right.
And sometimes in aisle 6 of the supermarket something is said and it's a little off, or there
Right.
may be, and it makes no sense, and sometimes people take it as gospel. Or,
Right. Yes.
or
yes. Right.
and then there
Especially
are
with social media.
Yeah, and then there are times where we'll agree to disagree at the end of the day. So it's an important open line of dialogue, so everyone's sort of understanding the issues, and if they agree, then they'll agree, and if they don't, they'll say, well, I get both sides at least. I understand where they're coming from.
Right. And something else that you have started that we wanted to just touch on and even show viewers on the screen is this recurring project, Top 10 Reasons Peekskill is a Wonderful Place to Live and Learn.
Yeah.
Right? And you said you do this
Every board meeting.
every board meeting, right?
Yeah, we have 2 board meetings a month.
Right.
So I brought it up to my cabinet over the summer, and
And here
2
we have, by the way, we're showing it now on the screen.
Oh.
This is, I guess, the most recent, maybe?
That's the most recent
Yeah.
one. The
Right.
Peekskill High School did a school leadership team presentation, which
Right.
in a nutshell means they just talked about Peekskill High School, and they talked about their goals and vision.
Right.
So what I did is for their particular presentation, I went over to the high school, and I know a lot of the kids and I know a lot of the parents, and I just went up to kids and I said, "Why is Peekskill a great place to live and learn?"
Yeah.
And this is from the students of the high school.
Right.
They talked about the youth bureau and all in between. So they shared those top 10 reasons. It's a little kickoff from Letterman, but it's a
Yeah, no, it's great. I think
yeah.
that's great. Again, something that's sort of in a very positive and beneficial way. It popularizes, the message that you're trying to get out there,
Yeah.
right? That, and I think what I've gathered from reading your thoughts is, part of the message is to be very upbeat and to be proud,
Yeah.
to take pride.
For sure.
Pride of place and,
Yeah.
and pride of who you are. And you are very motivational, I find, when I'm reading your material. I mean, and I'm not in the school system or anything, but I found it actually very motivating. You talk about things like aligning goals and time management, which are best practices of business or what management consultants talk about.
For sure, yeah.
So it's almost like if you combine the management and the motivational tools, you're like the Anthony Robbins of local education. And you also quote, as I mentioned at the outset, one of your influences, who you quote on the website, is Malcolm Gladwell, of course, who's a best-selling writer and sort of likes to look into the human psyche and how people think and act. And so one of what I call his theorem that you refer to is consistent practice and expertise. Well, consistent practice is what leads to expertise, right? I mean, that's what he's saying.
Yes. Yeah.
And again, that's something that I notice you like to preach.
Yeah.
That let's stick to the goals.
Yeah.
Let's be consistent. Isn't that one of your
consistent
themes?
is definitely one of them. Doing making each day better than the next. Your lessons in the class.
Better than the last.
Better than the last.
Right.
Yeah, it can't be better than the next. That would be pretty amazing. But better than the last. And my cabinet or the administrative council this year is reading a book called Mindset from Carol Dweck.
Okay.
And Mindset talks. The book talks about fixed mindset and growth mindset. And they talk about how if there's challenges or struggles, a fixed mindset kind of boxes themselves in, whereas a growth will learn from a negative and or positive experience. And working in schools, those happen. We're 20 seconds away from anything happening at any time. There's 3,500 children. There's a huge community that wants the best for their child. So there's a lot of pressures and there's a lot of influences that could feel overwhelming to somebody. And it does at times. I mean, we're human beings. and it's busy. You're minute to minute. But the growth mindset will kind of try their best to look at each of these moments as opportunities or growth learning opportunities.
Right. How can we change for the better?
Yeah. What did we learn? Even the 5K is a good example because really we planned and planned and planned. And afterwards I said, well, what could we have done better?
Right.
When someone said, get coffee for the volunteers at 6 o'clock in the morning.
Well, okay.
So we will have coffee next year. But little things like that.
Yeah.
As opposed to just, resting on your laurels kind of thing. Yeah.
Now, something, of course, I have to ask about, and I don't want some parents out there to think that I'm cursing when I say this. Common Core.
How dare you?
Some people think, some people actually treat those as dirty words, and of course they're not. And we know full well from all the news coverage this past year, there was a statewide in New York, a 20% opt-out rate. Numbers are a funny thing, aren't they? What was it, Mark Twain or Samuel Clemens, his real name? I think he was the source of their lies, damn lies, and statistics.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But so 20% opted out. Now some people say, understandably, wow, compared to past opt-outs, that's like an exponential increase. Other people also logically could say, well, that means 8 of 10 students or parents did not opt out. And that should 2 of 10 parents determine what the rest of us do. So anyhow, what are your thoughts on Common Core?
Well, someone told me one time when I was doing my doctoral work at St. John's, they said 34% of statistics are made up.
So I guess we can't believe that one either.
Oh,
right?
wait, what?
Well, we can't believe that one either.
No, that's a joke, right?
That's fair, yeah. It is.
So, the opt-out and really what it is, it's test refusal because, the state is saying, this is your test, this is what you have to do. And then, folks choose to refuse to take it or take it itself. Common Core, in its simplest terms, is just a set of standards.
Right.
The state came up with a set of standards that are rigorous and relevant to each other. So that's really what they are. They're just a set of standards. And they can be found on, the Engage New York website, engagenewyork.com kind of thing.
Right.
The controversy is how it was sort of thrown at us. There wasn't a ton of educational input. There wasn't a ton of planning to phase in, if you will. It was this set of standards which significantly changed the landscape of our curriculum, of what we're teaching, how we're teaching it, and what our kids are supposed to learn. Right. So they created this set of standards, and and it's not when you look at it at face value, it's not horrible. I mean, they're good. Right. They're things we want our kids to know and learn. But again, it was how it was phased in. Right. And then they attached it to the evaluations of teachers. They created the annual professional performance review, which is APPR. And basically it was these standards, which at face value you kind of are like, all right, we want all our kids to be able to be thinkers and writers and readers and literate. And then they created these tests that somewhat mirrored these standards and said, here's this test, you all have to take it. And depending on how your children do, I'm talking to the teachers from above, this is how you're going to be evaluated, period. This is how, in addition to like the regular observations of teachers from administrators. And the test itself, again, there wasn't this rollout, phase in, planning, let's look at it, let's get more teacher input. It was this pretty big bear of an exam that connected to these pretty big bear of standards that the system necessarily wasn't ready for.
So it was a shock to the system.
Yeah. I mean, in essence, and the sobering part is, you have teachers who are really, really strong teachers giving this exam that unfortunately the system didn't prepare the kids for and was rolled out, and then the kid, he or she, doesn't do as well, and then the teacher takes that hit on their livelihood or their evaluations itself. My daughter I have twins. I have two girls.
Okay.
They're 14. They'll be 15 in November.
Right.
But one of them took the regular Regents exam, did really, really well. I think got like a 99, and then took the Common Core Regents and didn't do as close as that exam. So what does that say? Does that say the teacher didn't do his or her job? Does that say she doesn't know math as well? So it took a variety of moving pieces of how they put it into the system, and then attached it to people's jobs.
So it's that it was precipitously introduced, not that the concept is inherently flawed, but the way that it was rolled out was flawed.
And the testing, because then it gives teeth to the people who created these tests, saying, see, the teacher is not doing his or her job, the principal's not doing it, the superintendent's not doing it, they're failing this test.
And speaking of ways in which education management is analogous to business management, in business, a company would roll out a new product in test markets or beta testing, which I know a lot of people are saying that's what they should have done, is maybe tested it before they, rolled it out universally.
Now, those that create it would say they do these field testing, but it wasn't really put to the test, if you will, and then attached to the evaluative process.
Right. And something else, because again, as I had mentioned to you when we were talking, these 30 minutes fly by in like what seems like 5 minutes.
Got it.
So on a personal note, our daughter Alyssa, my wife Elisa, and my daughter Alyssa, who we're very proud of, is a new teacher.
Oh.
She started as a full-time teacher this semester at a private all-girls school in Greenwich, Connecticut, Sacred Heart.
Congratulations.
Thank you, and she loves it. So my question that we have to squeeze in about literally 2 minutes is, some people, and this is very germane to Peekskill, which is why I want to get this in, think that charter schools are like private schools funded by the public. What are your thoughts on charter schools?
Well, congratulations on your daughter.
Thank you very much.
I mean, teaching is the greatest profession in the world. I mean, you have such opportunity to make change literally every day.
Right.
From your words and your actions. It's wonderful, from all positions within. Depending on the community.
But was Peekskill, as you know, rejected it?
Well, I mean, there were a lot of elements of the charter movement that would have significantly affected how we operate as a public school system. Significantly affected how we operate. And we've been at bare bones for many, many years in Peekskill with regard to state aid.
So there was no margin there.
There's nothing. I mean, we're at bare bones. So we are building, and we are refocusing our alignment of our goals and just staying the course, trying to do a manageable number of things proper and excellent, as opposed to many, many things.
Without any unnecessary, what you might call unnecessary distractions. That's probably a topic, charter schools, that could fill up another 30 minutes. And as we're closing up, David, I want to just mention that on November, I believe it is the 13th, is the Peekskill Schools Athletic Hall of Fame dinner. And of course, anybody who knows anything about Peekskill sports, for example, knows Athletic Director Lou Panzanero, who is a legend in this area. And so we just want to make sure that people know about the Athletic Hall of Fame dinner on November 13th. And it's great to have you on, and definitely I'd like to have you back, because there's a lot we could be talking about. And one thing I don't like to say to anybody, I just have this funny thing about words, my own sometimes eccentric way. I don't like to say good luck, because with what you do, it's not a matter of luck, it's a matter of hard work, and making your own luck. But I wish you all the best, and I think you're off to a great start.
Thank you, Bruce.
And everything you're trying to do.
Thank you for having me.
And I'm sure we'll be, communicating, fraternizing a lot more.
Sure.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you.
Dr. David Fine, who is the superintendent of the Peekskill Central School District. And thank you for watching Hudson Valley WXYZ with Bruce the Blog. And remember, when Bruce the Blog listens, people talk and learn. Thank you. Thank you.